Admiral James Harrison stood at the viewport of the ESS Defiant, his weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as he watched the distant stars. The latest report from New Eden Colony sat heavy in his hands: another attack, another dismissal from the Galactic Federation Security Council. This time, though, something was different. This time, the raiders had left survivors. "They're testing us," Lieutenant Commander Priya Sharma said from behind him, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much in too little time. "The Cartaxians think we're weak because we haven't responded to their provocations." Harrison turned from the viewport, his steel-gray eyes meeting Priya's determined gaze. "The Federation wants us to believe these are random pirate attacks. As if pirates would have access to phase-shifted weaponry and quantum disruption fields." The bridge of the Defiant hummed with quiet tension as the crew maintained their stations. Through the main viewport, the devastation of New Eden's orbital platforms was clearly visible, twisted metal and scattered debris forming a grotesque orbit around the colony world. "Sir," Communications Officer Raj Patel called out, his fingers dancing across his console. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Harrison nodded, and the main screen flickered to life. Fleet Admiral Victoria Torres's face appeared, her expression grim. "James, we've confirmed what your intelligence suggested. The attack patterns match Cartaxian military doctrine perfectly. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." "The Federation still won't acknowledge it?" Harrison asked, though he already knew the answer. "Worse," Torres replied. "They're suggesting we scale back our colonial defense forces as a show of good faith. The Cartaxians have convinced the other council races that our military presence is provocative." Harrison's jaw tightened. The Cartaxians had played this game before with other emerging species: systematic harassment disguised as criminal activity, followed by demands for demilitarization in the name of peace. Usually, it ended with the target species becoming a protectorate of the Cartaxian Empire. "The colonial governors are meeting in emergency session," Torres continued. "We need your first-hand report of the New Eden attack. How soon can you return to Earth?" 3 days at maximum safe speed through hyperspace," Harrison replied. "But Admiral, leaving this sector now." "I know, James. But this is bigger than New Eden. We need to decide our next move very carefully." After the transmission ended, Harrison turned to his executive officer. "Priya, prep the ship for departure. But first, I want every sensor log, every piece of debris, every survivor's statement compiled and encrypted. The Federation Council wants to ignore evidence." "Fine. Let's give them something they can't ignore." The journey back to Earth was tense. Harrison spent most of it reviewing the attack data with his senior staff, building a case that even the most skeptical Federation representative couldn't dismiss. But it was during a quiet moment in his quarters, studying the medical reports from the survivors, that the true pattern emerged. "Computer, display all Cartaxian attack locations from the past 6 months, he commanded. The holographic display filled with red dots across human space. "Now overlay major shipping routes and resource deposits." The pattern was clear: the Cartaxians weren't just testing defenses. They were mapping out human infrastructure, probing for weaknesses in supply lines, identifying crucial choke points. This wasn't preparation for raids or intimidation. This was preparation for invasion. When the Defiant arrived at Earth, the Colonial Governors' Conference was already in full swing. Harrison made his way through the old United Nations building in Geneva, now serving as Earth's governmental center. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from every human colony, their voices echoing off the historic walls as they debated humanity's response. Governor Diana Chen of New Eden was speaking as Harrison entered. "My people are dying. The Federation's inaction is nothing less than complicity in these attacks. We cannot dash. The Federation maintains peace across 12,000 species," interrupted Ambassador Leonard Walsh, Earth's representative to the Galactic Federation. We cannot risk our standing by making accusations without absolute proof. Harrison stepped to the podium, the room falling silent as he was recognized. With respect, Mr. Ambassador, I have your proof. He activated his datapad, and the chamber's holographic systems displayed the compiled evidence. The Cartaxians aren't hiding anymore. They're preparing for war, and the Federation is helping them by forcing us to stand down. The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments, but Harrison continued, his voice cutting through the chaos. We've played by their rules. We've filed complaints. We've requested investigations. We've watched our people die while the Federation debates procedural matters. And now we know why. The Cartaxians have convinced them that humanity is a threat that needs to be contained. Governor Chen stood. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Harrison looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of colonial leaders and military commanders. I'm suggesting we stop asking for permission to defend ourselves. The Cartaxians think we're weak because we keep trying to work within a system that's rigged against us. They expect us to either submit to their demands or to fight conventionally and lose against their superior numbers and technology. He paused, letting his words sink in. But they don't understand humanity. They think our reliance on the Federation means we're dependent, that we've lost the edge that let us survive on Earth for millennia. They're wrong. We've been holding back, trying to be good galactic citizens. Maybe it's time we showed them why that was a courtesy, not a necessity. The room was silent now, every eye fixed on Harrison as he continued. We have technologies we've kept private, strategies we've never revealed. The Cartaxians think they know our capabilities because they've seen what we've shown the Federation. They have no idea what humanity can do when we stop playing nice. Governor Chen was the first to speak. The Federation would never approve dash. The Federation, Harrison interrupted, has made it clear that they won't help us. Fine. We'll help ourselves. But if we do this, we do it all the way. No half measures. No holding back. We show them exactly why humanity survived every extinction-level event our planet threw at us. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity would no longer seek Federation approval for its defense measures. As Harrison left the chamber, Admiral Torres fell into step beside him. The Cartaxians will respond with full military force once we start fighting back effectively, she said. Harrison nodded. They will. And when they do, they'll finally learn what humanity is capable of when we stop restraining ourselves. They think they've been fighting human colonists. They're about to fight humanity itself. As the Defiant prepared for departure the next day, Harrison received one final transmission from Earth Command. Operation Prometheus was authorized. The message contained just 4 words: take off the gloves. Silent thunder. The Cartaxian battle fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their massive ships casting long shadows across the void. High Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, his scaled skin gleaming under the tactical displays. The humans had finally shown their true colors, destroying 3 Cartaxian merchant vessels that had strayed too close to their colonies. Now, they would learn the price of defiance. Display human defense formations, Vexthor commanded. The holographic display showed a scatter of small ships around Earth's orbital stations. Pathetic. They don't even maintain a proper battle line. His tactical officer, Subcommander XRA, shifted uncomfortably. High Admiral, our intelligence suggests the humans have been developing new technologies in secret. The destruction of our scout ships was luck, Vexthor interrupted. The humans are primitive. They barely mastered faster-than-light travel a century ago. Their ships are adequate for trade and colony defense, nothing more. The Cartaxian fleet advanced in perfect formation, their ships' energy signatures precisely synchronized according to millennia of martial tradition. As they passed the orbit of Mars, Vexthor prepared to issue his ultimatum to Earth's defensive forces. The message never left his ship. The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 Cartaxian frigates on the fleet's outer edge simply vanished from tactical displays. Not destroyed, there were no energy signatures, no debris fields, no radiation. They were simply gone. "High Admiral!" Zexare called out, her scales flushing with alarm. "We're detecting spatial anomalies throughout the fleet. Our ships are dash." More vessels disappeared. The perfect Cartaxian formation began to break as ships maneuvered desperately to avoid the invisible threat. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in agitation as he watched his carefully planned assault dissolve into chaos. "Impossible," he hissed. "The humans don't have phase shift technology. The Federation monitors dash." "The Federation monitors what we show them," Admiral Harrison's voice cut through the Cartaxian command channel. "Just like you've been watching what we wanted you to see." Across the solar system, humanity's true defense grid activated. Quantum displacement fields, reverse-engineered from studying debris left by the Cartaxian raiders, trapped enemy ships in pocket dimensions. Nanoswarm missiles, developed in secret lunar facilities, tore through advanced shields by adapting to their frequency patterns in real time. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Torres watched the battle unfold from the Strategic Command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Status of Operation Prometheus. Phase 1 successful, reported General Marcus Wong, his fingers dancing across tactical displays. The Cartaxians took the bait. Their fleet formation played right into the displacement grid's optimal configuration. Torres nodded grimly. "Begin Phase 2. Let's show them what else we've been hiding." Throughout the Sol system, automated defense platforms emerged from camouflaged positions in asteroid fields and planetary rings. But these weren't the conventional weapon systems the Federation knew about. These were the products of humanity's darkest fears and greatest innovations. The platforms unleashed swarms of quantum-entangled drones, each one capable of predicting and countering Cartaxian defensive measures before they were even activated. The alien fleet's famous electronic warfare suites, which had subjugated dozens of species, proved useless against human systems that operated on principles they'd never encountered. "Impossible!" Vexthor raged as another battle group vanished into a quantum displacement field. "Their technology can't be this advanced. We've monitored their development for decades." "You monitored what we wanted you to monitor," Harrison's voice came again, calm and steady. "Did you really think a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to moon landings in 60 years would show you everything they could do?" On the Defiant, Harrison watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Cartaxian fleet, once a perfect formation of over 300 ships, was now scattered and disorganized. Their rigid command structure, which served them so well in conventional battles, was falling apart in the face of humanity's unconventional warfare. "Sir," Priya reported, "the quantum displacement fields are holding. 30% of the Cartaxian fleet is trapped. Their attempts to adapt their shields aren't working." Harrison nodded. "They can't adapt to what they don't understand. Deploy the Chimera units." Across the battlefield, sleek black ships emerged from stealth. The Chimera-class vessels were humanity's answer to the question, what if we stopped playing fair? Their hybrid drives combined conventional propulsion with experimental quantum tunneling, allowing them to appear inside Cartaxian formation's defensive screens. Vexthor watched in horror as the impossible ships materialized throughout his fleet. The Cartaxian vessels, designed to fight at range with powerful energy weapons, found themselves in point-blank battles with an enemy that simply ignored the laws of physics as they understood them. "All ships, maintain formation," he commanded, but his voice cracked with uncertainty. "Concentrate fire on dash." A Chimera ship appeared directly in front of the Eternal Dominion's bridge. Through the viewport, Vexthor could see the vessel's hull shifting, adapting its structure in real time to counter his ship's defensive systems. "The Federation will never allow this," he transmitted to Harrison. You're violating dozens of treaties. Treaties that you violated first, Harrison replied. But unlike you, we don't need the Federation's permission to defend ourselves. Now, you have a choice. Surrender and retreat, or find out what else humanity has been developing while you thought we were playing catch-up. In the Strategic Command bunker, Torres received word that the Cartaxian fleet was retreating, those ships that could still maneuver helping to tow their damaged companions. The quantum-trapped vessels were released, their crews likely to spread tales of humanity's hidden strength. Send word to all colonies, Torres ordered. Operation Prometheus was successful. The Cartaxians know we can fight back now. But this is just the beginning. Harrison stared out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Cartaxian fleet. Send a message to the Federation Council, he commanded. Tell them humanity is formally withdrawing from the mutual defense treaties. We'll handle our own security from now on. As the message was transmitted, Harrison knew the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The Cartaxians had wanted to prove humans were weak. Instead, they'd forced humanity to reveal just how strong they really were. And this was only the beginning. The adaptive edge. The Galactic Federation Council chamber had never been so quiet. The holographic display in the center of the vast amphitheater showed footage of the Battle of Sol, captured by Cartaxian ships before their retreat. Representatives from 1,000 species watched in stunned silence as human vessels phased through supposedly impenetrable shields and wielded technologies that shouldn't have been possible for centuries. High Counselor Rixtel of the Meridian Consensus finally broke the silence. This is unprecedented. The humans concealed their true technological capabilities from the Federation for decades. This violation of transparency protocols. Transparency. Harrison's voice cut through the chamber as he stepped forward, his dress uniform pristine but his expression hard. Like the transparency of ignoring our evidence about Cartaxian attacks. Or the transparency of demanding we reduce our defenses while pirates mysteriously acquired military-grade weapons. In the month since the Battle of Sol, humanity had been busy. The Cartaxian Empire's defeat had created a power vacuum, and dozens of species previously intimidated into silence were now coming forward with their own stories of harassment and exploitation. The Federation exists to prevent exactly this kind of unilateral military action, Ambassador Yextri of the Cartaxian Empire protested, his scales flushed with anger and embarrassment. The humans have destabilized centuries of careful balance. A balance that favored the strong while sacrificing the weak, Lieutenant Commander Priya Sharma interrupted, stepping up beside Harrison. She activated her own data feed, and the chamber's display changed to show evidence of Cartaxian operations against dozens of developing species. We've been gathering this intelligence for years. Every time we tried to present it through official channels, it was dismissed. The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. In the chaos, Harrison received a priority communication from Fleet Admiral Torres. Status report from Operation Shadowkeeper, her holographic form reported quietly. The Cartaxians are mobilizing their reserve fleets. They're not accepting their defeat gracefully. Harrison nodded slightly. As expected. Have the Chimera squadrons picked up any patterns? Better than that, Torres smiled grimly. Dr. Patel's new quantum entropy analysis system is working perfectly. We can predict their fleet movements before they even issue the orders. The development of the quantum entropy analyzer was just one example of humanity's rapid technological advancement. While the Cartaxians and other established powers had grown comfortable with their traditional advantages, humanity had been pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Cartaxian Empire demands the humans share their technological developments with the Federation, Yextri announced to the Council. These advancements must be properly regulated and controlled. Like you shared your phase shift technology when you used it to attack our colonies? Harrison countered. Humanity withdrew from the technology sharing protocols last month. We're not obligated to reveal anything. In the shadows of unexplored space, humanity's true response to the Cartaxian threat was taking shape. The Chimera ships had been just the beginning. On hidden stations throughout human space, engineers and scientists were pushing the boundaries of possibility, driven by the knowledge that survival demanded constant innovation. Fleet Admiral Torres stood in the observation deck of humanity's newest creation, the ESS Prometheus. The massive vessel represented everything humanity had learned about adaptation and survival. Its hull was composed of self-repairing nanomaterials that could reconfigure in real time to counter any weapon. Its quantum core could generate enough energy to power a small star, and its adaptive AI could process combat data faster than any organic mind. The Cartaxians are deploying their remaining fleets in a standard containment pattern, reported Captain Nina Rodriguez, the Prometheus's commanding officer. They still think they can isolate and overwhelm us with superior numbers. Torres smiled. They haven't learned yet. Numbers mean nothing when you can't predict where or how your enemy will strike. She turned to Dr. Raj Patel, the architect of humanity's quantum entropy analysis system. How long before they realize we can see their movements before they make them? They can't conceive of it, Patel replied, his eyes gleaming with pride. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on overwhelming force and technological superiority. The idea that we could develop systems that operate on completely different principles, it's outside their paradigm. As if to prove his point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Cartaxian attack fleet detected, Rodriguez reported. 300 vessels, approaching in standard combat formation. Standard, Torres mused. That's their weakness. They've fought the same way for so long, they've forgotten how to adapt. She turned to her command staff. Deploy the entropy swarms. Let's show them what unpredictability really means. The entropy swarms were perhaps humanity's most terrifying innovation yet. Microscopic quantum-entangled drones that could predict and counter enemy actions before they occurred, moving in patterns that appeared chaotic but were precisely calculated to maximize defensive and offensive capabilities simultaneously. The Cartaxian fleet never had a chance. Their formations, perfected over millennia of warfare, meant nothing against an enemy that could be everywhere and nowhere at once. Their advanced shields, designed to withstand known weapons, were useless against attacks that seemed to violate causality itself. Back in the Federation Council chamber, Harrison watched the tactical feeds with grim satisfaction. Humanity doesn't want war, he announced to the stunned representatives. We never did. But we will not be bullied, controlled, or suppressed. The galaxy is changing. The old power structures are breaking down. You can either adapt to this new reality, or you can follow the Cartaxians into obsolescence. As if to emphasize his point, the tactical display showed the Cartaxian fleet retreating in disarray, their perfectly planned attack scattered by weapons and tactics they couldn't even understand, let alone counter. The message was clear: humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were rewriting the rules of warfare itself. And they were just getting started. Ripples of fear. The Cartaxian war room was in chaos. Once pristine holographic displays flickered with conflicting data as reports flooded in from across their territory. High Command strategist Kexenar watched in growing horror as another battle group disappeared from their tracking systems. Impossible, he muttered, his scaled hands trembling as they moved across the tactical interface. They're attacking everywhere at once. No species can maintain an offensive across such vast distances. But the humans weren't fighting like any species the Cartaxians had encountered in their 1,000-year history of warfare. The quantum entropy analyzers had given humanity something that terrified their opponents more than any weapon: perfect prediction capabilities. On the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, Fleet Admiral Torres reviewed the latest strategic updates with a grim satisfaction. The Cartaxians are pulling back from their outer territories, she reported to the assembled command staff. They can't defend against attacks they can't predict. Dr. Patel nodded, his quantum entropy displays showing cascading patterns of probability and causation. Their military doctrine is breaking down. Every time they try to establish a defensive pattern, our systems predict and counter it before they can even complete the deployment. The psychological impact of humanity's warfare methods was spreading far beyond the immediate battlefield. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Cartaxian influence for generations watched in amazement as the mighty empire crumbled before an enemy they couldn't understand. In a secure conference room deep within Earth's Strategic Command, Harrison met with representatives from several species that had previously been too afraid to challenge Cartaxian dominance. Ambassador Lyra of the Centauri Collective, her crystalline form shimming with nervous energy, spoke first. "Your methods of warfare, they defy everything we thought we knew about combat in space," she said, her translator struggling to convey her mix of fear and admiration. The Cartaxians claimed technological superiority was absolute. That their way of war was perfected over millennia. "But you." "We never accepted their limitations," Harrison replied. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our refusal to accept that something is impossible just because everyone says it is." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Rodriguez aboard the Prometheus. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from deep within Cartaxian space. They're attempting to activate something big." The massive viewing screen showed a structure emerging from hyperspace, a vast ring-shaped device that dwarfed even the largest battleships. High Admiral Vexthor's voice boomed across all communication channels, tinged with desperate pride. "Behold the nexus of order," he declared. "The culmination of 10,000 years of Cartaxian engineering. A weapon that can reshape reality itself. Surrender now, humans, or watch as we unmake everything you've built." In Strategic Command, Harrison exchanged glances with Torres. They had known the Cartaxians would eventually deploy their superweapon, the quantum entropy analyzers had predicted it weeks ago. What Vexthor didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment. "Deploy Operation Looking Glass," Torres commanded. Across human space, a network of quantum resonators activated, their frequencies precisely calibrated to the patterns Dr. Patel's team had extracted from the entropy data. The nexus of order began to power up, its enormous ring crackling with energy that could tear apart the fabric of spacetime. But something was wrong. The Cartaxian superweapon's energy patterns became erratic, its carefully controlled reactions cascading in unexpected ways. Vexthor's triumphant expression turned to horror as he realized what was happening. "Impossible," he whispered. "You couldn't have known, couldn't have prepared." "We've been reading your moves before you make them," Harrison replied calmly. "Your superweapon was impressive, 1,000 years ago. But while you were perfecting one ultimate strategy, we were learning to adapt to anything." The nexus of order's energy signature collapsed in on itself, the mighty weapon reduced to a drifting hulk by humanity's countermeasures. But more significant than the physical defeat was the psychological impact. The Cartaxians had just watched their ultimate weapon, the product of millennia of development, neutralized by a species they had dismissed as primitive mere months ago. In the aftermath, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Cartaxian dominion for generations were rising up, emboldened by the proof that the Empire wasn't invincible. The carefully maintained hierarchy of galactic power was dissolving. "The old order is dying," Torres observed, watching the reports come in. "But what comes next, that's the real challenge." Harrison nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We've shown them that their way isn't the only way. That adaptation and innovation trump tradition and power. But now we have to prove we're not just replacing one empire with another." The quantum entropy analyzers were showing new patterns now, possibilities and probabilities spreading out across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. Humanity had changed the rules of warfare, but the greater challenge lay ahead, changing the rules of peace. As the Cartaxian Empire's grip on power crumbled, other species began reaching out to humanity not just for protection, but for understanding. They wanted to learn not just humanity's technology, but their way of thinking, the adaptability and creativity that had allowed them to achieve the impossible. The galaxy was learning a lesson that humanity had known since its earliest days. True strength lies not in overwhelming power, but in the ability to change, to adapt, to find new solutions to old problems. And as the old hierarchies crumbled, a new order was beginning to emerge, one based not on force, but on innovation and cooperation. A new understanding. The Great Hall of the new Galactic Assembly bore little resemblance to the old Federation Council chamber. Gone were the rigid hierarchies of seating that had placed senior species above developing ones. Instead, representatives from across the galaxy sat in a circular arrangement, symbolizing the new era of cooperation that had emerged from the ashes of the old order. Admiral Harrison stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the transformation that had swept through known space in the 6 months since the fall of the Cartaxian Empire. But he wasn't there to discuss the past. The quantum entropy analyzers have detected something approaching the galaxy's edge, he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Something that doesn't match any known pattern. The assembly erupted in murmurs of concern. They had learned to trust human predictive capabilities. If something was coming that even humanity's advanced systems couldn't fully analyze, it warranted attention. Fleet Admiral Torres, standing beside Harrison, activated a new set of holographic displays. We believe it's a scout force from the intergalactic void. The kind of threat the old Federation always feared but was too divided to prepare for. The images showed massive objects moving through the darkness between galaxies, their energy signatures unlike anything seen before. The old Federation would have spent decades debating how to respond. The new assembly took less than an hour to reach a decision. Humanity has shown us a better way, declared Ambassador Lyra of the Centauri Collective. Not just in technology, but in thinking. We vote to implement the Phoenix Protocol immediately. The Phoenix Protocol was perhaps humanity's most ambitious project yet. Drawing on the combined scientific knowledge of hundreds of species, it represented a new approach to galactic defense, one based on adaptation and cooperation rather than overwhelming force. Dr. Patel stood at his station aboard the newly commissioned ESS Unity, the first ship built through true interspecies collaboration. The vessel combined human quantum technology with Centauri crystal matrices, Zarkax energy systems, and dozens of other innovations from across the galaxy. The Void travelers are accelerating, he reported, watching the quantum entropy patterns shift. They'll reach the galaxy's edge in 3 days. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding the Unity, nodded. Begin Phase 1 of the Phoenix Protocol. Let's show them what a united galaxy can do. Across the galactic rim, thousands of quantum beacons activated, creating a web of interconnected fields that could detect and analyze any approach. But unlike the rigid defensive networks of the past, this system was fluid, adaptive, learning and changing with each new piece of data. In the assembly chamber, former High Admiral Vex Thor of the Cartaxians watched the preparations with a new understanding. His people had spent millennia believing that power came from control and dominance. Now, working alongside humans and other species as equals, he saw the truth. We thought we were strong because we could force others to follow our way, he mused to Harrison. But real strength comes from being able to change, to learn, to find new paths forward. Harrison nodded. That's why humanity survived everything Earth threw at us. We never stopped adapting, never accepted that there was only one way to solve a problem. The Void travelers reached the galaxy's edge exactly when the quantum entropy analyzers had predicted. But instead of finding a disorganized collection of competing species, they encountered something unprecedented, a galaxy united not by force or fear, but by shared innovation and purpose. The Phoenix Protocol activated, its adaptive networks analyzing and responding to the visitors in real time. The Unity led a fleet of hybrid ships, each representing the combined knowledge and creativity of multiple species. But they weren't there just to defend, they were there to understand, to learn, to find new ways forward. They're attempting to communicate, Dr. Patel announced, his quantum displays showing complex patterns of energy and information. Their language, their very way of thinking, it's completely alien to anything we've encountered. Good thing we specialize in adapting to the unexpected, Torres replied with a smile. Open a quantum resonance channel. Let's show them what happens when a galaxy learns to work together. The first contact with the Void Travelers became yet another testament to humanity's influence on galactic society. Where once there would have been fear and aggression, now there was curiosity and innovation. The same adaptability that had helped humanity overcome the Cartaxians now helped the United Galaxy bridge the gap with a truly alien intelligence. In the assembly chamber, Harrison watched the historic meeting unfold. You know, he said to Torres, when we first went to the Federation for help against the Cartaxian raids, I never imagined it would lead to this. Torres nodded. We showed them that strength isn't about having the biggest fleet or the most advanced technology. It's about being able to change, to grow, to find new solutions to new challenges. The quantum entropy analyzers were showing new patterns now, possibilities spreading out across not just the galaxy, but into the void between galaxies. Humanity had started this journey by refusing to accept limitation and injustice. They had continued it by showing the galaxy a better way forward. And now, as they faced the unknown together with their galactic allies, they were proving that the greatest adventures come not from conquering or controlling, but from endless adaptation and growth. The old saying that humanity took its first steps into space looking for new frontiers had proven true in ways no one could have imagined. They had found those frontiers not just in the stars, but in the endless possibilities that came from refusing to accept that anything was truly impossible. As the Void Travelers began their historic first exchange with the United Galaxy, Harrison reflected that this was humanity's greatest gift to the cosmos, not their technology or their weapons, but their unshakable belief that there was always another way, always a path forward, always room to grow and change and become something more than anyone thought possible. The galaxy had learned this lesson well. And together, they were ready for whatever the universe had in store.